Naima had spent the whole day preparing. It was their 10th wedding anniversary, and she wanted everything to be perfect. She wore the blue dress Kojo once said made her look like a dream. The table was set for two, candles lit, soft music playing in the background. In the kitchen, the aroma of jollof rice, grilled chicken, and puff-puff filled the air. Naima smiled, thinking of how surprised Kojo would be. She checked the clock. A few days after that painful, lonely night, Naima was still waiting for answers. Kojo hadn't called, hadn't come home, hadn't explained. She moved through the house like a shadow, checking her phone every few minutes, hoping for a message, a call, something. Then one morning, a letter arrived at the door. It was gold and white, shiny, the kind you send for a celebration. Her heart skipped. Maybe it was a surprise. Maybe Kojo had planned something late. Maybe this was his way of saying sorry. She opened the envelope with shaking hands, a small smile forming, trying to believe in something good. But what she saw made her world stop. It was an invitation. Not to their anniversary, not to a dinner, not even to anything that had to do with her. It was a wedding invitation. Kojo's wedding. And not to her. His name was there, bold and clear, but beside it was another woman's, Zina. Naima read the names again and again, thinking maybe her eyes were playing tricks. Maybe this was a joke. But it wasn't. Her hands trembled. Her heart felt like it was breaking in real time. Her name wasn't even spelled right on the envelope. Naomi. That's what it said. As if she didn't even matter. As if she was already erased. She dropped the card on the floor and stared at it. So this is where he had been. While she was cooking and waiting and crying, Kojo was planning a wedding with another woman. He hadn't just forgotten their anniversary. He had replaced her. Just like that. Naima sat on the floor, numb, with pieces of her heart scattered around her like the broken invitation at her feet. Her mind was full of noise and silence at the same time. Her phone buzzed, a message from a friend. Did you hear? Kojo's getting married next weekend in Accra. Crazy, right? Naima didn't reply. She couldn't. Her world had shifted, and she didn't know where to stand anymore. What do you do when the man you loved invites the world to watch him love someone else? While Kojo smiled for cameras in Accra, holding Zina's hand and showing off his new bride in gold lace and diamonds, Naima was standing on the side of the road, staring at her life thrown into the dust. People were clapping for Kojo's big wedding on social media. Photos, videos, even hashtags. But far away from all the noise and celebration, Naima was being pushed out of the house she helped build. A house where she had once painted the walls with love, picked curtains with care, and planted flowers in the yard. Now men she didn't know were throwing her clothes into black plastic bags. Her shoes were scattered on the ground. Her photo frames were cracked. No one even looked her in the eye. She tried to speak. "This is my home," she said, her voice shaking. But one of the men just replied, "We were told you don't live here anymore." Told by who? Of course by Kojo. The same man who had once promised her forever now couldn't even give her a phone call. Naima stood there, her heart pounding, her cheeks burning with shame. Neighbors watched from their windows. Some whispered. A few shook their heads. But no one came forward. She felt like a ghost, like someone who had already been erased. As Kojo danced with Zina under bright lights and smiled for photographers, Naima was picking her underwear off the floor and trying to hold back tears. Every piece of clothing, every broken plate, felt like a piece of her heart being stepped on. She didn't know where to go. Her phone battery was dead. Her heart was even more empty. She had never felt so alone. That night, she slept at a neighbor's house. On the floor, with only a wrapper around her and a small pillow someone gave her. She stared at the ceiling, eyes wide open, wondering how the man she once loved could destroy her so quietly, so cruelly, while pretending to be a hero in front of the world. Kojo had found a new beginning, and left Naima with nothing but silence and pain. Just when Naima thought the pain couldn't go deeper, the internet delivered a new blow, one that shattered her all over again. A friend sent her a video late at night with a short message. "I'm so sorry. Don't watch it." But Naima clicked. She had to know. In the video, Kojo was sitting at a fancy table with his friends, laughing loudly, drinks in hand. The camera was shaky, but the voices were clear. One of the men asked jokingly, So how did you manage to upgrade so fast? Kojo leaned back, smirking, then said the words that would break Naima's heart all over again. Naima? She was just practice. This one Xena is class. The table roared with laughter. Naima froze. Her ears rang. She played the video again. And again. Maybe she heard wrong. But no, he really said it. Loud. Proud. On camera. Like she meant nothing. Like their 10 years together were a joke. Like she had been some test run for the real thing. She didn't even notice the tears falling until her phone slipped from her hands. Her chest ached. Not just from the betrayal, but from the public shame. This wasn't just between them anymore. The whole world had seen it. By morning, the video had gone viral. Shared on blogs, reposted on Instagram, talked about on TikTok. People were reacting, commenting, choosing sides. Some laughed along. Others were angry for her. But the damage was done. Naima didn't leave her room that day. She curled into a ball on the bed, hugging her pillow, feeling like a piece of trash thrown in the street. Her phone kept buzzing, strangers sending her messages, some kind, some cruel. She kept asking herself, was I really never enough? Was I just a stepping stone? The words kept playing in her head. Just practice. That night, she screamed into her pillow until her voice was gone. Not because she wanted Kojo back, but because the man she gave her heart to had turned her into a punchline. And now everyone was watching. Naima left Nigeria with a heart full of pain and a head full of silence. She didn't tell many people. She just packed a small bag and went to stay with her cousin Isatu in Bamako, Mali. The city was calm, but inside her, there was a storm. Every morning she woke up tired, not from sleep, but from the weight of sadness. She felt like a stranger to herself. She didn't want to talk, didn't want to eat, didn't want to hear her name. Some days, she didn't even want to exist. The betrayal from Kojo, the humiliation, the video, the lies. It all kept playing in her head like a broken song. Isata tried her best. She brought food to Naima's room, played her favorite old songs, and sat beside her in silence. But Naima was far away, locked in her own world of questions and heartbreak. Her phone stayed off. Her eyes stayed red. Every smile she once had was gone. Time felt frozen. That entire month felt like one long, dark night that refused to end. One afternoon, while looking for a charger in her travel bag, something unexpected happened. A small notebook fell out and landed by her feet. Curious, Naima picked it up. It was old, with a soft cover and faded ink. She opened it, and her breath caught. Inside were her own drawings. Beautiful, hand-drawn designs of jewelry, dresses, beadwork. Pieces of her childhood dreams. Things she used to create before life got complicated. She had forgotten about them. Her fingers touched each page like they were gold. A little smile slowly appeared on her face, for the first time in weeks. That notebook reminded her of who she was before the pain. Before Kojo. Before everything fell apart. It reminded her that she once had dreams of building something of her own. And maybe, just maybe, she still could. She held the notebook close to her chest, eyes full of tears, not from sadness this time, but from something new. A quiet hope. A tiny light in all the darkness. Something inside her whispered, "Start again." Naima sat on the edge of the bed, holding the old notebook like it was something sacred. Her fingers flipped through each page slowly, carefully, as if they were fragile pieces of her past. Inside were things she had almost forgotten, sketches of necklaces made from beads, detailed designs of dresses she once dreamed of creating, little business plans written in blue ink with hearts beside them. Ideas she wrote as a teenager, when life was full of dreams and anything felt possible. As she turned the pages, something inside her started to shift. A feeling she hadn't felt in a long time. A small fire, deep in her chest, slowly coming alive again. She picked up a pen and started to redraw one of the designs. Her hands moved on their own, like they remembered what to do. For hours she sat by the window, sketching in silence. It was the first time in a long time she felt connected to something. Something that belonged only to her. Not to Kojo, not to pain, not to the past. Just her. Isata walked in, and saw the papers spread out. "These are beautiful," she whispered. Naima looked up, her eyes soft. I used to dream of making these, she said. Maybe it's not too late. Naima's first market table was small and simple. Just a wooden board resting on 2 crates, covered with a bright cloth. On it, she carefully placed her handmade jewelry. Bracelets made of colorful beads, earrings shaped like tiny suns, and necklaces that told quiet stories of her strength. She didn't have money for signs or packaging, only her creativity and quiet courage. She stood behind her table each day, smiling at strangers, hoping they would stop and see the beauty she had poured into every piece. At first, few people noticed. Some walked by without a glance. But Naima didn't give up. She came back every day, standing under the sun, fixing her display, talking softly to anyone who showed interest. One day, a tourist from France bought a necklace and posted a photo on Instagram. The caption read, "Found magic in a market in Bamako." That post was shared. Then another visitor, a fashion blogger, bought a pair of earrings and praised Naima's work online. Slowly, more people started coming. Then something big happened. A Nollywood star visiting Mali passed by, drawn in by the colors. She bought a bold red necklace and wore it in a photo shoot. That picture went viral. Suddenly, Naima's little market table became a hot spot. Bloggers wrote about her. Customers lined up. Tourists asked for photos. Some women cried as they hugged her, saying, "Your story gives me hope." Naima worked day and night, creating new designs, each one more beautiful than the last. Her jewelry wasn't just decoration, it was a voice. A voice for women who had been silenced, for dreams that had been crushed. Her pain had become power, her table had become a symbol. People no longer saw just jewelry. They saw a woman who had been broken, and who stood up again. They saw a fighter, an artist, and a light. From one small table in a market, a movement was born. And Naima, once left in the shadows, was now shining for the whole world to see. Naima's little market table grew faster than anyone could have imagined. What started with a few handmade pieces turned into a full collection. Her jewelry began to appear not just on tourists and bloggers, but on TV, in magazines, and at fashion shows. People started calling it not just jewelry, but a movement. Soon, she gave her brand a name that carried all her pain, strength, and rebirth. House of Naima. It wasn't just a business. It was her story, her name, her pride. Women across Africa connected with it deeply. They saw themselves in her journey, hurt, but not finished. Within 2 years, House of Naima had become a symbol of hope. Naima was invited to speak at women's events, fashion panels, and empowerment forums. Her voice, once silent in pain, now spoke loudly for thousands. Every time she stood on a stage, dressed in clothes she designed and jewelry she created, people clapped not just for her success, but for her strength. Her face appeared on billboards that read, "She rose. So can you." Women who had once given up on their dreams found courage through her story. Even schools started inviting her to speak to young girls. Then came the biggest moment yet. Naima was invited to Dakar, Senegal, to receive a special award for women who changed the future of Africa. The hall was full. Lights flashed. People stood up when she walked in. She wore a golden headpiece made with her own hands, and a dress that shimmered with the colors of her journey: deep red for pain, gold for growth, and white for peace. As she stood on the stage with tears in her eyes, the crowd chanted her name. Not Naima the abandoned wife, but Naima the leader, the creator, the woman who turned her wounds into wings. Her brand, House of Naima, was now everywhere, from markets in Mali to magazines in Lagos. But more than fame, what mattered most to her was this. Girls across Africa now believed they could rise again too. And that belief, to Naima, was more precious than gold. While Naima stood tall on a glowing stage in Dakar, receiving her award with pride and grace, something very different was happening back in Accra. Kojo and Zina had planned a huge baby shower. They wanted it to be the most talked about event of the year. Full of gold decorations, expensive outfits, a famous DJ, and fancy food. They even hired a photographer to capture every moment for social media. It was supposed to be perfect, a chance to show off their life and success. But that dream came crashing down. Hours before the event, the hotel manager called Kojo. Their payment had bounced. "We cannot continue unless you settle the bill," he was told. Kojo panicked. He made calls, begged for extra time, but the answer was still no. The decorator refused to come because they hadn't paid the balance. The baker didn't deliver the cake. The DJ canceled too. Slowly, word began to spread. Guests who were already dressed started calling. Is the event still happening? But there was no answer. Zena was furious. She shouted, cried, and blamed Kojo. But deep down, both of them knew the truth. Their lives were falling apart. Kojo was drowning in debt. After the scandal where he mocked Naima went viral, many people who once supported him quietly stepped back. Brands cut ties. Clients stopped answering. The expensive lifestyle they had tried to maintain was built on lies and loans. Now even their house was under repossession. At the same time, pictures of Naima in her elegant dress and handmade crown were spreading across the internet. People called her a queen. She turned pain into power, one headline said. While the world cheered for her, Kojo and Zena sat in silence, watching their plans fall apart. It was a strange twist of fate. On the same day Naima was honored for inspiring thousands, the people who once laughed at her were being laughed at by the world. Karma had come, quietly but clearly, and everyone could see who truly rose and who truly fell. It had been years since Naima had seen Kojo. Her life had completely changed. She now owned a beautiful boutique in Lagos, filled with her jewelry, fashion designs, and women proudly wearing her creations. People came from all over the world just to visit House of Naima. It wasn't just a store, it was a symbol of strength and survival. One afternoon, as Naima was helping a customer choose a necklace, she noticed people whispering near the entrance. Then she saw him, Kojo. He looked nothing like the man she once knew. His face was thinner, his clothes plain, and his eyes full of regret. He stood quietly at the door, unsure if he should step in. But then he walked toward her slowly, ignoring the curious stares of customers and the flash of paparazzi cameras outside. The world was watching again. Naima, he said softly, his voice shaking. Please. I made a mistake. I lost everything. I just want to talk. Naima stood still, calm and composed. Her staff looked at her, waiting to see what she would do. Everyone was silent. Even the sound of the street outside seemed to pause. Kojo looked at her with pleading eyes, but Naima remembered everything. The betrayal, the pain, the humiliation. She didn't need revenge. She had already won. Without raising her voice, she looked him in the eye and said, "You ruined me to celebrate her. Now both of you can rot together." Her words hit hard, and the room stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then someone started clapping. And then another. Soon the whole boutique was filled with applause. Not because of hate, but because of her power, her dignity, and her strength. Kojo turned and slowly walked out, cameras following him, capturing his fall. Naima, on the other hand, turned back to her work, not with anger, but with peace. She had nothing to prove anymore. She had risen from the ashes, and now she was building empires. This moment wasn't about him returning. It was about her never needing him again. The moment was tense. Kojo stood inside Naima's boutique, looking nothing like the proud man who once left her for another woman. His face was tired, his eyes full of shame. His clothes were simple, and his voice was low and shaky. All around them, people had stopped what they were doing. Naima's team, customers, and even people on the street were watching through the boutique's glass. Phones were out. Cameras were already recording. The press had followed him in, hoping for drama, but no one expected what came next. Kojo took a step forward, his hands slightly shaking. "Naima," he whispered. "Please. I'm sorry. I messed up. I lost everything. Zena left me. I was wrong. I thought I was upgrading, but I destroyed the best thing in my life." He looked at her like he was hoping for mercy, maybe even a second chance. But Naima didn't move. She didn't cry or yell. She just stood tall, proud and calm. Her eyes met his, not with hate, but with strength. And then, in a voice clear enough for the cameras and microphones to catch, she spoke one single line. "You ruined me to celebrate her. Now both of you can rot together." The boutique went silent for a few seconds. Then came gasps. Then claps. Within minutes, the moment exploded on social media. Videos of her reply were posted everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. It was all over the internet. People cheered for her strength. Her words became captions, quotes, even turned into a trending hashtag. Women everywhere said, "She spoke for all of us." Kojo walked out slowly, his head low. The cameras followed him, but this time, no one was cheering for him. Meanwhile, Naima smiled softly and turned back to her team. She didn't celebrate. She didn't need to. Her peace, her success, her growth, those were her victories. That one line wasn't just a clap back. It was power. It was healing. And it was the moment the world knew. Naima was never the weak one. She was always the storm. Naima knew her story had touched many, but what mattered most to her now was helping other women rise. She remembered how lonely she felt when Kojo left her, how broken she was, how the world moved on while she cried in silence. She didn't want any woman to go through that pain alone. So she decided to do something powerful. She started a foundation for women who had been left, divorced, or abandoned. Women like her. Women who had been told their lives were over. She called it Second Light. It was a place where women could get help, learn skills, and find the strength to start over. There were workshops for jewelry making, fashion design, cooking, and even public speaking. Some women came with tears in their eyes. But after a few weeks, those same women left with smiles, confidence, and business plans. Naima sat with them, listened to their stories, hugged them, and reminded them, "You are still worthy. You are still enough." One day, someone posted a short video of Naima giving a speech at the foundation. In the video, she said, "They tried to break me, but they didn't know I was a seed." That clip went viral on TikTok. Millions watched it. People everywhere started asking about Naima. TV stations called. Magazines wrote stories. And then, a film company announced they were making a documentary about her life. The title was simple but strong. The Woman They Tried to Break. From small villages to big cities, women were talking about Naima. They saw hope in her eyes. They saw strength in her voice. She had gone from the woman crying alone in Bamako to the woman who now lifted others with both hands. Every bracelet sold in her store helped fund another woman's journey. Every speech she gave was a light in someone else's darkness. Naima had found her purpose, not just in success, but in sisterhood. She wasn't just healing. She was helping others heal too. And in doing so, she became unstoppable. Life took a quiet turn for Kojo. The same man who once laughed loudly in videos mocking Naima now stayed hidden in shame. His flashy lifestyle couldn't last. The luxury cars were taken. The house was gone. The parties stopped. Debt followed him everywhere, and so did regret. He faded slowly from the spotlight, becoming just another man with a past he couldn't fix. Zina, the woman he once left everything for, vanished from social media. No more posts. No more glamour. No more attention. But Naima's light only grew brighter. She walked with grace, strength, and beauty across the grand runways of Paris and Lagos Fashion Week. But this time, she wasn't wearing someone else's designs. She was wearing her own. The clothes, the jewelry, the crown. All made by her hands, from the heart of her story. Cameras flashed, crowds clapped, and her name echoed in places she once only dreamed about. People didn't just see fashion. They saw a woman who turned heartbreak into healing, shame into strength. Naima was no longer just a name. She was a symbol of rising again. He gave her pain, yes, but she turned that pain into power. And now, the whole world watched her shine.